I always thought betrayal would feel like a sudden stab to the heart. Instead, it crept in slowly, wrapped in the quiet whispers of a Sunday family dinner. My name is Veronica, and I was 18 when I learned that family loyalty had a price tag, specifically, the price of my college education. We need to discuss something important, Mom said, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her wine glass. Dad sat beside her, avoiding my eyes, while Aunt Maria perched on the armchair like a queen about to deliver a royal decree. I should have known something was wrong when they invited me into Dad's study after dinner. That room was reserved for serious conversations, like when Grandpa died, or when Dad lost his job at the firm. "Honey," Mom started, her voice trembling, "we've been thinking about the future, about college." "Your cousin Haley has shown remarkable potential," Aunt Maria cut in, her voice smooth as honey but twice as sticky. "She's been accepted into several prestigious universities." I nodded, confused. "That's great. I'm still waiting to hear back from MIT and Georgia Tech myself." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush me. "The thing is," Dad finally spoke, his words careful and measured, "we've decided to reallocate some resources." Reallocate? The word felt foreign on my tongue. "Your college fund?" Mom blurted out. "We're giving it to Haley." The world didn't stop. The earth didn't shake. Instead, everything became crystal clear, like someone had finally wiped clean a foggy window. "Your what?" I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking under the desk. "It makes perfect sense." Aunt Maria leaned forward, her expensive perfume suffocating me. "Haley's been accepted to Harvard. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Your parents understand that supporting her education is an investment in our family's future." "And what about my future?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Oh, sweetie." Mom reached for my hand. I pulled away. "You're so practical. You can start at community college, work part-time. You've always been good at figuring things out." "Unlike Haley," Aunt Maria added, "who needs to focus entirely on her studies." I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "So, because I'm capable, I get punished? Because I'm responsible, I lose my chance?" "You're not losing anything," Dad protested weakly. "You're helping family." "Family?" I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "Does Haley know that you're giving her my future?" "She'll be so grateful," Aunt Maria beamed. "She's always looked up to you." I walked to the window, watching our neighbor's cat prowl across the garden. Behind me, they continued talking about logistics, about how this was the right decision, about how I'd understand someday. "How much?" I asked, turning back to face them. "What? How much of my fund are you giving her?" Mom looked at Dad, who cleared his throat. "All of it. 85,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. 8 years of saving. Every birthday check from grandparents. Every summer job. Gone." "Veronica," Mom started again, but I held up my hand. "I need some air." I walked out of the study, past the living room where Haley sat texting on her phone, completely oblivious to how her future had just been bought with my dreams. In my room, I opened my laptop and started typing. If they thought I would roll over and accept this, they didn't know me at all. I had straight A's in advanced math and science. I'd been tutoring since sophomore year. I knew how to build websites. My phone buzzed. A text from Patrick, my computer science teacher, who'd become a mentor of sorts. "How'd the family dinner go?" I stared at the message, then typed, "Can we meet tomorrow? I need business advice." His reply came instantly. "Coffee shop, 4 p.m. Perfect. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The girl staring back wasn't a victim. She was someone who'd just been underestimated for the last time. They thought they were teaching me about family loyalty. Instead, They were about to learn a lesson about consequences. I opened a new document and started typing. Business plan, online tutoring platform. Let Haley have Harvard. I had something better. Motivation and revenge, I was discovering, made an excellent business partner. You're either incredibly brilliant or completely insane, Patrick said, stirring his coffee as he reviewed my business plan. Maybe both. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon activity, providing perfect cover for our conversation. 3 months had passed since that fateful family dinner, and I'd spent every free moment building my secret empire. The market's saturated with tutoring services, he continued, but your approach... He tapped the screen where my prototype website glowed. This is different. Most platforms just connect tutors with students, I explained, leaning forward. Mine provides structured courses, progress tracking, and personalized study plans. Plus, I'm focusing exclusively on STEM subjects. And you're doing this while maintaining a 4.0 at community college? I smiled tightly. Sleep is overrated. Veronica, Patrick's voice softened. You don't have to prove anything to them. I'm not. I started, but he cut me off with a look. I've known you since you were 15. This isn't just about building a business. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Mom's text read, Family dinner tonight. Haley wants to share her Harvard experiences. Speaking of proving things, I muttered, showing Patrick the message. Are you going? Have to. Missing family dinners would raise suspicions. That evening, I sat through another excruciating performance of The Haley Show, picking at my mother's lasagna while my cousin dominated the conversation. And then my professor said my paper was the most insightful analysis he'd read all semester, Haley gushed, twirling her fork dramatically. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Aunt Maria beamed. Isn't it amazing what she's achieving? I bit back the urge to mention that my online calculus course had the highest student satisfaction rating in the state. Instead, I smiled and asked, How's the social life, Haley? Oh my God, the parties are incredible. Last weekend. Parties? I interrupted innocently. I thought you needed to focus entirely on your studies. A moment of awkward silence followed, before Dad cleared his throat. How's community college, Veronica? It's fine, I said, stabbing a piece of garlic bread. I'm managing. She's always been so practical, Aunt Maria said, as if practical was a terminal illness. Not everyone is meant for prestigious universities. Under the table, my hands clenched into fists, my phone vibrated, a notification from my business dashboard. Another 50 students had signed up for my advanced physics course. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to use the bathroom. In the hallway, I checked my phone. The new enrollments would add another $5,000 to my monthly revenue. I was already making more than Dad's salary, and nobody had a clue. You okay? Mum's voice startled me. She stood in the hallway, concern etched on her face. Just tired. Working extra shifts at the library. She touched my arm. I know things have been hard, but we're so proud of how you're handling everything. I wanted to laugh, or cry, or both. Thanks, Mum, I managed, then escaped back to the dining room. Later that night, I met Patrick at his home office. He'd been letting me use it as my business headquarters after hours. Your server crashed again, he said by way of greeting. You need better infrastructure. I dropped into a chair, exhausted. I know. The growth is happening faster than I anticipated. Speaking of growth, he turned his monitor toward me, showing a spreadsheet. You've hit 6 figures in monthly revenue. It's time to incorporate properly. And risk them finding out? Veronica, he leaned back, fixing me with a serious look. You're not just running a side hustle anymore. This is becoming a real company. You need to protect yourself legally. I stared at the numbers on the screen. He was right, of course. What had started as a revenge-fueled project was evolving into something bigger than I'd imagined. Fine, I conceded. But we keep it quiet. As far as my family knows, I'm still just scraping by at community college. While secretly building an education technology empire, Patrick smirked. You know, someday, this is going to make one hell of a story. Someday, I agreed, opening my laptop to review student feedback. But for now, let them think what they want. Let them believe Haley is the family's only hope for success. You're playing a dangerous game. I thought about the look on Aunt Maria's face when she'd dismissed me earlier, about the way my parents had given away my future without a second thought. No, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard as another batch of enrollment notifications came in. I'm not playing at all. This is dead serious. The news broke during another mandatory family dinner, but this time, the star of the show was conspicuously absent. Haley's taking a break from Harvard, Aunt Maria announced, her voice brittle as thin ice. Just for a semester. To find herself. I paused mid-bite, my fork hovering over my plate. Mom and Dad exchanged worried glances. Find herself? Dad asked carefully. What exactly does that mean? She's been under so much pressure. Aunt Maria dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. The academics, the social obligations, it's all so demanding. The parties must have been exhausting, I muttered into my water glass. Mom shot me a warning look. What about the money? The silence that followed was deafening. Gone, Aunt Maria whispered. All of it. The tuition, the housing deposits, the emergency fund. She needed to maintain a certain lifestyle to network properly. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably another notification about my company's growing user base. I'd just hired my 20th employee last week. But surely there's something left. Dad's voice had taken on the same desperate tone I remembered from when he'd lost his job. She's in Bali, Aunt Maria said, as if that explained everything. Finding her spiritual center. I couldn't help myself. Spiritual center? That's what we're calling it when someone blows through $85,000 in less than 2 years? Veronica! Mom scolded. No, let her speak. Aunt Maria's eyes narrowed. You've always been jealous of Haley's opportunities. I laughed, and the sound seemed to startle everyone at the table. Jealous? Of what? Her ability to waste other people's money? You don't understand the pressures. You're right, I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I don't understand pressure. I only work full-time while taking a full course load at community college. What would I know about pressure? I left the dining room, but not before hearing Dad's quiet question to Aunt Maria. What about paying it back? In my old bedroom, I opened my laptop and checked my company's latest figures. We'd just crossed the $1 million monthly revenue mark. Patrick had been right about incorporating. We now had offices in 3 cities. A soft knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Come in. Mom entered, looking tired. That wasn't very kind downstairs. Neither was giving away my college fund. She sat on my bed, smoothing the comforter with trembling hands. Your father and we're in trouble, Veronica. What kind of trouble? Financial, she whispered. We took out a second mortgage to help with Haley's expenses. Maria promised to pay us back. But now... I closed my laptop slowly. How bad is it? We might lose the house. The irony was almost too perfect. Here I sat, a secret millionaire, watching my parents reap what they'd sown. Have you talked to a financial advisor? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. We can't afford one. Mom's laugh was hollow. We can barely afford groceries. My phone buzzed again. A text from Patrick. Major tech company wants to acquire us. 9 figures. Call me. Maybe I can help, I said carefully. I've been studying financial management at school. Mom patted my hand. That's sweet, honey, but this is beyond a student's understanding. We need a miracle. I bit back a smile. A miracle, or just a daughter they'd underestimated? Later that night, I met Patrick at our usual spot. They want to buy us out completely, he said, sliding the offer letter across the table. You could walk away now, never work another day in your life. I stared at the number of zeros on the page. Not yet. This is about your family, isn't it? They need to understand, I said, pushing the letter back to him. Counteroffer. I want to retain majority control. Patrick studied my face. You're planning something. Let's just say Karma's about to make a house call. On my drive home, I passed Aunt Maria's house, its pristine lawn and luxury cars a monument to appearances. Soon, those appearances would crumble, just like Haley's Harvard dreams. My phone rang. Mom again. Honey, I hate to ask, but do you have any savings? Even a few hundred would help right now. I smiled into the darkness. Actually, Mom, I might have a solution, but we need to talk about terms and conditions. Terms and conditions? Yes, I said, pulling into our driveway. It's time for a family meeting. A real one this time. The stage was set. My revenge wasn't just about money anymore. It was about teaching them the true cost of their choices. And I was about to give them one expensive lesson. Summa cum laude, the dean announced, and I walked across the stage to receive my engineering degree. From my seat in the audience, I could see Mom and Dad clapping politely, still unaware that I'd finished my 4-year degree in just under 3 years, or that I was now worth 8 figures. I'm so proud of you. Mom hugged me after the ceremony. A community college degree is nothing to be ashamed of. I caught Patrick's eye across the crowd. He was trying not to laugh. Thanks, Mom. Actually, there's something I need to tell you. Veronica! Aunt Maria's voice cut through the crowd like a knife. She was wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my parents' monthly mortgage payment. How quaint. Is this the whole graduation ceremony? Maria, Dad said weakly, I didn't know you were coming. Of course. Family supports family. She air-kissed my cheeks. Have you heard from Haley? She's starting a yoga retreat in Thailand. Very exclusive. Still finding herself? I asked innocently. That's quite a long search. Before Aunt Maria could respond, my phone rang. I stepped away to take the call. The acquisition papers are ready, my lawyer said. Are you sure about the terms? Absolutely. Send them over. When I returned, Mom was making dinner plans. We should celebrate. Maybe that new Italian place. Too expensive, Dad muttered. Actually, I said, I'd like to host dinner at my place. They all stared at me. Your place? Mom frowned. But you live in the dorm. Not anymore. I have an apartment downtown, near the tech district. How can you afford? Dad started. That's part of what I want to discuss, I interrupted. 7 o'clock? Patrick will be joining us. Your professor? Aunt Maria scoffed. Why would he? My business partner, I corrected. And trust me, you'll want to hear what we have to say. Later that evening, I watched their faces as they entered my penthouse apartment. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline. Modern art hung on the walls, and the furniture was sleek and expensive. There must be some mistake, Mum whispered. This can't be. Dinner's ready, I announced, leading them to the dining room where Patrick was already seated. I hope everyone likes Japanese fusion. Veronica. Dad's voice was strained. What's going on? I took my seat at the head of the table. Remember when you gave my college fund to Haley? You said I was good at figuring things out. But this, Aunt Maria gestured around. This is impossible. Actually, Patrick spoke up, it's quite impressive. Veronica built a multi-million-dollar education technology company while completing her engineering degree. In 3 years, no less. The silence was delicious. Multi-million? Dad choked on his water. I opened my laptop and pulled up our company website. We have over 200,000 students worldwide. Major tech companies are fighting to acquire us. And yes, I graduated today from Georgia Tech's online engineering program, not community college. Mom's hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You all decided who I was 3 years ago. The practical one, the responsible one, the one who would understand having her future stolen. We never stole, Aunt Maria began. $85,000, I cut her off. That's what you took from me. Would you like to know what I turned it into? I slid the acquisition offer across the table. Dad's face went pale as he read the number. This is more money than Haley burned through? Yes. More than this apartment cost? Definitely. More than your second mortgage? Absolutely. How did you know about the mortgage? Mom gasped. I know everything, I said calmly. About the loans, the credit card debt, the missed payments, just like I know Aunt Maria has been lying about her finances for years. Aunt Maria stood up abruptly. This is absurd. I don't have to listen. Sit down. My voice was steel. You haven't heard my offer yet. Offer? Dad looked up from the paper. Yes. I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. I'm prepared to help you all out of this financial mess, but there will be terms, conditions, and this time, I'll be the one setting them. Patrick raised his glass. I believe this is what they call a turning of the tables. You can't be serious, Aunt Maria sputtered. Oh, but I am, I said, opening a folder containing carefully prepared documents. Now, who would like to hear my terms? The look on their faces was worth every sleepless night, every missed party, every moment of the past 3 years. Revenge, it turned out, was best served with a side of success. These terms are outrageous. Aunt Maria slammed the document down on my dining table. You can't possibly expect us to agree to this. Actually, I leaned back in my chair, I expect you'll find them quite reasonable, considering the alternative is bankruptcy. Dad was still reading, his hands trembling slightly. Full financial transparency, monthly audits, approval needed for any purchase over $500. And this ridiculous clause about family dinners? Aunt Maria sneered. My favorite part, I smiled. No more mandatory family gatherings unless I initiate them. No more comparing cousins. No more talk about Haley's spiritual journey. She's finding herself, Aunt Maria protested. On my parents' dime, I countered. Speaking of which, let's discuss the repayment schedule. Mom hadn't spoken yet. She sat there, staring at her hands, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. The interest rate is fair, Patrick pointed out. Much better than they'd get from any bank, especially given their current credit scores. You checked our credit? Dad looked up, aghast. I did my due diligence, I said. Just like you should have done before giving away my future. The doorbell rang. Right on schedule. That would be my lawyer. I stood up. She'll walk us through the paperwork. Lawyer? Aunt Maria's face went pale. This is a family matter. Family matters stopped being private when you convinced my parents to take out a second mortgage for Haley's designer wardrobe. The lawyer, Sarah, was crisp and professional as she laid out additional documents. The terms are non-negotiable, she explained. Miss Veronica will assume the second mortgage and clear all outstanding debts in exchange for financial oversight and specific behavioral conditions. Behavioral conditions? Mom finally spoke. Like we're children? Like you're people who made very poor decisions, I corrected, and need supervision to avoid making them again. And if we refuse, Aunt Maria challenged, I pulled up the bank's foreclosure notice on my laptop. Then Mum and Dad lose the house next month. Your credit card debt goes to collections. And that audit the IRS is planning for your consulting business, Aunt Maria? It won't be pretty. The color drained from her face. How did you? I have resources now, I said simply. And unlike some people, I know how to use them. Dad was reading the final pages. You'll pay off everything? Just like that? Not just like that. I pointed to the signature line. You'll be on a strict budget. No more enabling Haley. No more secret loans. And you'll all attend financial literacy classes. This is humiliating, Aunt Maria stood up. More humiliating than bankruptcy? Patrick asked mildly. Because that's where you're headed without Veronica's help. Mum reached for the pen with shaking hands. We don't have a choice, do we? You always have a choice, I said quietly. Just like you had a choice 3 years ago. The next hour was filled with signatures and notarizations. With each page, I watched my family's autonomy slip away, just like my college fund had slipped away that Sunday evening. One more thing, I said, as Sarah packed up the documents. Haley comes home. What? Aunt Maria's head snapped up. Part of the agreement. I'm buying her a ticket back from Thailand. She gets a job, a real one, and starts paying back what she owes. She's not ready. She's been ready her whole life, I cut in. She just never had to be responsible because you were all too busy protecting her from consequences. After they left, Patrick poured us both a drink. That was brutal. It was necessary. I took a sip. They needed to understand. Understand what? That actions have consequences. That responsibility isn't a punishment. It's a privilege. That the practical one, the responsible one, the one they all underestimated. I smiled into my glass. She was paying attention all along. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We never meant to hurt you. I typed back. I know, but you did. Now we all learn from it. Patrick raised his glass. To karma? To karma. I clinked my glass against his. And to the next family dinner, on my terms this time. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in Thailand, my cousin was about to receive a very interesting email about her all-expenses-paid trip home. The thought made me smile. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying people. Sometimes it's about forcing them to rebuild themselves, brick by painful brick. And I would be there, watching every step of the construction. Your credit card was declined, I said, sliding the plastic across the kitchen counter to Mom. Want to explain the attempted purchase at Nordstrom? 2 weeks had passed since the agreements were signed. Mum stood in my apartment's kitchen, looking like a teenager caught sneaking out. It was just a small thing, she mumbled. A dress for Haley's welcome home dinner? I pulled up the purchase attempt on my tablet. $479 isn't small, Mum, and it's definitely not within the approved budget. She needs something nice for her first day at the office job you arranged. She needs to learn the difference between wants and needs, I corrected. Something you and Aunt Maria never taught her. The elevator dinged, and Patrick walked in with several shopping bags. Mission accomplished. Picked up everything on the list. What's that? Mom asked. Haley's work wardrobe, I said. From Target and H&M, professional, appropriate, and within budget. Target? Mom looked horrified. But she's never had to shop at Target? Never had to check price tags? Never had to work for anything? I started unpacking the bags. That's exactly the problem. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Maria's asking for an advance on next month's allowance. Excuse me, I told Mom, stepping into my office to make a call. Hello? Aunt Maria answered on the first ring. No advances, I said firmly, but the country club dues are not covered in the agreement. We discussed this. Your membership has been cancelled. How am I supposed to maintain my social connections? The same way normal people do, through work and genuine relationships, not overpriced cocktails and gossip. Back in the kitchen, Mom was fingering one of the blouses Patrick had bought. It's actually quite nice. Life doesn't end when you shop at regular stores, Mom. I sat down beside her. How are the financial literacy classes going? She blushed. Did you know we've been calculating interest wrong all these years? No wonder the credit cards got so out of control. Speaking of control, Patrick interjected, Haley's flight lands in 3 hours. Mom straightened up. I should go pick her up. No, I said firmly. Remember the agreement. I'm picking her up. Alone. 3 hours later, I stood at the international arrivals gate, watching as my cousin emerged looking tanned and considerably less designer-clad than when she'd left. Veronica? She blinked in surprise. Where's Mom? Your welcome wagon has new management, I gestured toward the exit. Let's go. In the car, she fidgeted with her worn backpack. Mom said you're, rich now? And you're helping everyone? I'm helping them help themselves, I corrected, pulling onto the highway. Starting with you. Me? But I'm fine. I just needed some time to… Find yourself? In 5-star resorts using stolen money? She fell silent. Here's your new schedule, I handed her a folder. Work starts Monday at 8 a.m. sharp. You'll be an administrative assistant at a real estate office. Salary is $35,000 a year. That's nothing. My handbag collection alone was worth, I interrupted. Past tense. You'll live in the apartment I've arranged, with a roommate. Rent will be deducted from your salary, along with a reasonable repayment plan for the money you wasted. You can't do this! I pulled into a parking spot at her new apartment building, modest, but clean and safe. Actually, I can. Your mother signed the papers. You can either accept these terms, or… I shrugged. Well, Thailand might look welcoming, but your passport has been flagged. You didn't. I did. Welcome to responsibility, cousin. Upstairs, her new roommate Rachel was waiting, a sensible nursing student I'd carefully selected. Your room's through there, Rachel pointed. We split utilities and groceries. House rules are on the fridge. Haley looked around the simple apartment, then at her single suitcase of remaining possessions. For the first time, I saw something crack in her entitled facade. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. That's why you have Rachel, I said. And mandatory life skills classes twice a week. You'll learn. And if I refuse, then you can explain to the police about the fraudulent credit cards you opened in your mother's name. Her head snapped up. How did you… I know everything now, Haley. Every secret. Every lie. Every scheme. I headed for the door. See you at work on Monday. Don't be late. Outside, Patrick was waiting in his car. How'd it go? Phase 1 complete, I smiled. Now for the real test. Family dinner tomorrow night. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Enjoying? No. I watched the lights come on in Haley's window. But sometimes the hardest lessons are the most necessary ones. I can't believe you're making us eat here, Aunt Maria hissed, looking around the casual family restaurant with barely concealed disdain. What's wrong with it? I asked innocently. The portions are generous, and it's within everyone's new budget. Our first official family dinner under the new arrangement was going exactly as I'd expected. Haley sat quietly in her work clothes, exhausted from her first week of actual employment. Mum and Dad kept exchanging nervous glances, while Aunt Maria looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. I got my first paycheck today, Haley announced suddenly. It seemed… small. That's because of taxes, I explained, and the automatic deductions for your repayment plan. Speaking of plans, Aunt Maria straightened up. I've been thinking about my consulting business. Your non-existent consulting business? I raised an eyebrow. The one you used to launder money? The table fell silent. Even the nearby diners seemed to pause. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered fiercely. I pulled out my tablet. Really? Should we discuss the offshore accounts? The fake invoices? The reason you pushed so hard for Haley to get that money? Dad's fork clattered onto his plate. Maria, what is she talking about? Nothing. She's just trying to… I have proof, I cut in, of everything. Would you like me to share it with the IRS, or would you prefer to stick to our agreement? Aunt Maria's face crumpled. For the first time in my life, I saw her mask completely slip. I needed the money, she whispered. After Tom left, I couldn't let anyone know we were struggling. So, you sacrificed my future to maintain appearances? I leaned forward. Convinced my parents to give away my college fund to cover your tracks? Veronica, Mom reached for my hand. Please. No, Mom, it's time for the truth. I turned back to Aunt Maria. You didn't care about Haley's education. You needed that money to cover your debts before they caught up with you. And you used your own daughter to do it. Haley's head snapped up. What? Tell her, Aunt Maria. Tell her why you really pushed her to go to Harvard, why you encouraged her to spend so extravagantly. Mom? Haley's voice cracked. Is that true? Aunt Maria burst into tears. I was trying to protect us, our lifestyle, our status. Your lies, I finished. And now look where we all are. Mom and Dad nearly lost their house. Haley wasted 2 years. And me? I laughed softly. Well, I guess I should thank you. Thank her? Dad looked confused. If you hadn't taken my future away, I might never have built my own. I signaled the waiter. By the way, I'm buying the tech company that's trying to acquire us. The papers will be signed next week. Buying them? Patrick, who'd been quietly observing, sat up straighter. You never mentioned… Because some of us know how to keep business matters private, I said pointedly. The deal makes me the majority shareholder in both companies. Combined value, just north of $1 billion. Mum's water glass tipped over, spreading across the table. No one moved to clean it up. $1 billion, Haley whispered. Yes, built from scratch, while you were finding yourself in Thailand. I started dabbing at the spilled water with my napkin. But money isn't the point. Trust is. Family is. And you all failed spectacularly at both. We can change, Mom said quietly. We are changing. Yes, you are, because now you have no choice. I stood up. Aunt Maria, expect a visit from my forensic accountants tomorrow. Haley, you're getting promoted to project coordinator. If you can maintain perfect attendance for 3 months. Mom, Dad, the mortgage is officially paid off, but the financial oversight continues. And what do you get out of all this? Aunt Maria asked bitterly. I smiled, gathering my things. The satisfaction of watching you all learn the lessons you should have taught me. That actions have consequences, that hard work matters more than appearances, and that true family doesn't steal from each other. Where are you going? Dad called, as I headed for the door. Board meeting, I replied, without turning around. Some of us still have empires to run. Patrick caught up with me in the parking lot. That was brutal. That was necessary, I corrected, unlocking my car. Sometimes rock bottom has a basement, and they needed to see it. And now? I looked back at the restaurant window, where my family sat in stunned silence, their world permanently altered. Now they rebuild, I said. On my terms, with my rules, and maybe, just maybe, they'll learn something this time. And you? Patrick asked softly. What have you learned? I started the engine, smiling as my phone lit up with notifications about tomorrow's merger. That revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, piece by painful piece. Sign here, I slid the last document across my desk to Haley. This makes you a junior partner in the education division. She stared at the paper, then at me. Are you sure about this? Through my office window, I could see the city skyline, now dotted with buildings bearing my company's logo. On my desk sat a framed photo from last week's charity gala, my whole family, dressed modestly but professionally, actually smiling genuine smiles. You've earned it, I said. Perfect attendance for a year, completed all the financial literacy courses, built the youth outreach program from scratch. With your guidance, she added quietly. True, but you did the work. I leaned back in my chair. Something you never had to do before. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom entered carrying spreadsheets. The quarterly family budget reports are ready for review. How's Aunt Maria doing? Haley asked. Better. Mom sat down. The therapy is helping. And the community service at the Women's Financial Literacy Center. She's actually making a difference. Amazing what happens when you channel manipulation into motivation, I mused. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Meeting with the small business advisor went well. Ready to present my startup plan. Dad's really serious about this new venture, I showed them the message. He's different now, Mom said. We all are. She hesitated. Veronica, about the family dinner tonight. Don't worry, I smiled. We can have it at the country club. They both stared at me. Really? Haley asked. You've all stayed within budget for 6 months. Consider it a reward. I stood up. Besides, I bought the place last week. Got tired of their elitist membership policies. Mom shook her head. Sometimes I forget how powerful you've become. Not powerful, I corrected. Successful. There's a difference. Power is what Aunt Maria craved. Success is what I built. While making us build ourselves back up, Haley added. Exactly. I checked my watch. Speaking of building, don't you have a presentation to prepare for? Haley jumped up. Right, the new scholarship program. After she left, Mom lingered. I found something yesterday, cleaning out the attic. She placed a worn envelope on my desk, my old college acceptance letters. MIT, Georgia Tech, Stanford. She touched them gently. We were so wrong, Veronica. So terribly wrong. Yes, you were. I picked up the MIT letter. But look where it led. To you becoming a billionaire? To all of us learning what really matters. I opened my laptop, showing her the latest family financial report. Dad's credit score is now higher than it's ever been. Haley's savings account actually has savings in it. Aunt Maria is helping other women avoid the mistakes she made. And us? Mom asked softly. You and Dad finally understand the difference between enabling and supporting. I closed the laptop. That's worth more than any amount of money. Patrick appeared in the doorway. Ready for the board meeting? Almost. I turned to Mom. Will you be okay handling the family trust disbursements this quarter? She straightened proudly. I haven't made a single accounting error in 8 months. I know. I hugged her. That's why I'm letting you do it solo this time. After she left, Patrick sat down. You know, when this all started, I thought you were just out for revenge. So did I. I looked at the family photo again. But somewhere along the way, it became about reconstruction, about building something better from the ruins of what they destroyed. Including them, especially them. I gathered my files for the board meeting. They needed to fall apart to rebuild properly, to understand that success isn't about appearances or shortcuts. And now we're actually becoming the family we pretended to be. I smiled, just with better financial habits and a lot more honesty. Speaking of honesty, Patrick grinned. Wait until they hear about the education initiative you're launching. Free STEM education for 5,000 underprivileged students? I picked up my tablet. That's tomorrow's surprise. One step at a time. As we headed to the boardroom, I passed Haley, giving a tour to potential scholarship recipients. Aunt Maria was leading a financial literacy workshop in the conference room. Dad was in the innovation lab, sketching out his business plan. They weren't perfect. Neither was I. But we were better, stronger, wiser, more genuine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, about turning betrayal into betterment, hurt into healing, and broken trust into something stronger than before. And as I walked into the boardroom, ready to change more lives through education, I realized that success really is the best revenge, especially when it lifts everyone up along the way.